Hello Gemini friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my video, Gemini October 2020 Astrology Must Knows. October is going to be one of the most intense months of the year, and that is saying a lot considering we've had a very intense year so far. We've got a lot of factors in this month that are very similar to the energies that we had at June and July time. So if you kind of think back to what was going on then, there might be some similar storylines. I'm going to give you all of the layers of that I think are going to be relevant for you that will weave together the bigger picture of your experience this month, and will also place this month in the context of a longer storyline that is ongoing and of critical importance. Okay, so the first thing to know is that this month is going to be super emotional. Okay, that's one of the strands that I talked about with June and July. Part of that is for a similar reason. We've got Mercury in retrograde in a water sign. In the summer or winter for you all down under, we had Mercury retrograde in Cancer. Now in October, we have Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, okay? If you know anything about astrology, then you know water signs and air signs don't generally flow super well, okay? It doesn't mean you can't do great things with it. It doesn't mean you can't make it alchemical, because you certainly can. But going into it, you need to know that the heaviness of emotion is going to weigh. Some of those emotions can be very positive and can bring some wonderful things to manifestation. But a lot of it is going to be massive uncertainty, okay? But that's okay, because we are going to step out of this time. That's part of why I like to do these videos early, is so that you know when storms are coming, and you can prepare for them and then know that they're also going to pass, okay? So Mercury rules information, it rules news, it rules our mobility, it rules our communication with others. And when we have it in a water sign, there's a very strong emotional nature to communication. News that comes in is emotional, news that goes out is emotional, and that's going to be for everybody. But for Geminis, this is going to have an extra special kind of stickiness, okay? So that's the very first important must know. Something else to know about Mercury retrograde times is that plans very often change. It's very hard to pinpoint things that you're going to do. Things are going to be called into question. And so a must know for this month is to leave it as lightly scheduled as possible. If you have to plan something, if you have to plan travel, if you have to, try to get something on the books, just know that there's a very strong chance that that plan is going to change or be cut out altogether. Now, that being said, sometimes plans arise spontaneously in the retrograde time. And so you can look forward to the possibility that things that weren't planned can come in pretty quickly and be fulfilled in that month. But the lighter you schedule yourself, the happier you will likely be. First of all, because of the plan change situation. Second of all, because of the high emotion. You want to make sure that your schedule is as light as you can possibly make it, and that you haven't taken on extra projects. Geminis like to be all over the place and to get their fingers in a lot of pudding pies. And so if you kind of have been listening to what I've been talking about with Mars going into retrograde, that energy started to get really strong in August, officially retrograde in September, full-on retrograde Mars, which rules our oomph and our momentum and our drive and our ambitions and our goal setting. It's very strong into November when it goes direct, and we'll still have it kind of hanging out and lightening towards the rest of the year. But the motivations will likely be low. The frustrations could be high if you're trying to force anything. Okay, so the same way as we've got a must know for Mercury retrograde, keep your schedule light, try to have low commitments, and know that things are going to change. In Mars retrograde, know that your ambitions might be very low and you might get very lazy. And if you just allow it, you can flow. If you don't allow it and you try to push forward anyway, then that's when the trouble comes. The keynote of anger and resentment and frustration is going to come up in a big way, okay? So the more you can just kind of coast, not make trouble where it doesn't need to be, not try to push anything that's not flowing, and have a special alert when you're pushing and you're getting frustrated. Remember that Annie said that this was gonna happen, okay? So then that goes in your mind and you say, okay, I'm gonna stop pushing. And then you can kind of just be present for the things that may show up that will need your attention. Okay, so Mars retrograde can be a wonderful time of fruition and a wonderful time of ease, and especially for Geminis, because Mars is moving through Aries. So the angle that's being made with this particular placement is very favorable for you. So that means the less you have your foot on the gas, the more things from things you put in motion in the past may likely gel. And if you just sort of go into the lanes of the things that are wanting to happen for you and get out of the lanes of the things that you're trying to make happen for you, that's going to make all the difference in the world, okay? So this thing about uncertainty, there's going to be a massive amount of uncertainty this month, and that's coming from multiple factors, which I'm going to continue to layer in here. And one of them is the Mercury retrograde, and one of them has to do with the eclipses coming. One of them has to do with the 2 full moons this month and this energy of the water signs, okay? So if you have to do something important, you have to have a launch, you have to make a big decision, you've got to bravely forge in a new direction, October's not the best time for that. Unless you have some other like intuitive guidance or something clear that's lining up for you, then you can just coast and jump on that. But in general, as we get towards the end of November and into December and then January, the clouds of the retrograde, the year of retrogrades, will start to let up. The energy of the eclipses, which will be strong in November and December and will bring in new information that will be relevant to whatever things you might have on your mind in October, that's going to start to set your path. And in January, we have a lot of openness in the stars and an increasing amount of openness as we get towards the end of the year. So that's exciting. And it's especially exciting for Geminis because the whole world has been getting completely dogged with Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto and Capricorn. That has these conjunctions and connections that these planets have been making have been really putting us at a crossroads in history and have been bringing a lot of things to a head involving the systems, everything down from our individual systems to our local systems, to our government systems, to our world systems are under duress. Everything's being tested, and the planets moving through Capricorn are not at a great angle for Geminis in particular. Okay, so just kind of hang in there if you've been getting dogged a lot, okay? Because we've got the Gemini Sagittarius eclipses. Okay, so there's an eclipse in November and eclipse in December. And the reason why I talk about these in October or the month before is because 4 to 6 weeks before eclipses happen, we tend to see an increase in the news, in the storyline. So storylines that started when this new Sagittarius Gemini eclipse cycle started in the summer or the winter for you all down under, this is, going to dramatically change the lives of Sages and Geminis especially. Okay, so hold on to your hat. It's definitely going to be a wild ride, but there is a very strong chance that a lot of these changes are going to be super positive, especially as we get past this October into the beginning of November time when all this water energy is dogging you and all of this Capricorn energy is dogging you, okay? Because when Jupiter and Saturn get into Aquarius, it is going to be a whole game changer for the world, and this is going to particularly favor air and fire signs because air and fire signs flow well with air, which is what Jupiter and Saturn are going to be in. So Gemini being an air sign, this is fabulous news for you because starting in December, and you might start to feel it a little bit in September and October, November kind of brewing, but the rest of this other stuff might cause some static. This is going to make these outer planets that have been crushing you are going to start making nice angles, and not only a nice angle, the best angle in all of astrology. So those of you who are in the early part of the spectrum, so basically May-born Gemini placements or 0 to 9 and even like 10 degrees, you all are going to be the first ones that really start to get these kisses from Jupiter and Saturn moving through. And really those May-born for Saturn, Saturn's going to be focused very much on the May-born for the whole year of 2021. You'll start to feel this in December. You might start to be seeing signs of it kind of brewing, as I said. And then those of you who are basically June 1st through June 10th, you're going to be into the 2022 where those big things start gelling for you. And then those of you towards the end of the sign, it will be, end of 2022 into 2023 that you start to really feel this, the Saturn things gelling. But from the Jupiterian perspective, every Gemini is going to get their super special kiss from Jupiter, the great expander, the great benefic, the bringer of luck, the bringer of optimism. You're going to get that sometime between December and April. Everyone, every Gemini. All right. And because we start to feel these things early, like I said, you might start to see it coming. Now, those of you who are in the late degree bucket, okay, so like the last week or so of the sign, so like around June 16th through like June 23rd or the 15th through the 22nd, you know, basically just like the end week of the sign, you all are going to have triple kisses from Jupiter in 2021. Okay, so every Gemini has reason to celebrate, all right? But those of you in the end are going to have, because Jupiter is not going to go retrograde until it gets into Pisces, which is going to be April into May, and then it's going to start to move through Pisces, then it's going to retrograde and hit all those late degree placements throughout the year and then go back again, okay? So Gemini placements are going to have a very important role in the new history of the world. You all are bridge builders and bridge connectors, okay? So it's like when there's something over here and there's something over here, okay, right? You can make a bridge between it. This is literal or figurative. Gemini people and Sag people are also going to have this going on. You all are going to be like the guardians of the bridges between the worlds. And with the new things that are happening, you all are going to be and this is activated by the eclipse cycle. This is activated by the air placements with, these outer planets that I'm talking about. So you're getting warmed up for something very, very important in the new way of things. And a lot of it has to do with social interactions and community projects and gathering and sharing information, okay? So be feeling into this and be asking Spirit, what is your role to play? And you might already have an idea, and maybe you've started it or you tried to start it, but this year, which has been so weird and backwards, might have seemed like maybe your dreams weren't going to take flight, but there's a very good chance that they are, because Spirit has been whispering to you about things, about this role, and you're going to be able to step into it more fully as a teacher, as a guide, as an information bringer, as a social connector, and that's both online and in local communities. And I will tell you this, and this is kind of fun that Geminis are hearing about this first, because it's an insight that Spirit gave me since I did the other horoscopes, Pisces through Cancer. Before I recorded Gemini, which I'm doing right now, I had this major insight about how some of these Aquarian energies are going to take place. And then Spirit was telling me about this role that Gemini placements have, because local communities and online communities are going to take on a huge prominence with the energies of Aquarius. Aquarius rules community-based projects, and the word community can have multiple definitions, and all the definitions are ones that are going to be expanded. So I see a very strong push away from like the energy of the bigger, we'll just use kind of like a country as an example, with like the energy of nationalism. It's not that there won't be nationalism per se, but there will be a lot of breaking down into like-minded communities, whereas a nation on such a big level may have a really hard time feeling like certain needs and viewpoints are able to be represented, because it's just too big of a population to be able to feed into people who have special interests and special concerns and different viewpoints. And so these break down into these communities of like-minded people, whether they're neighborhoods, intentional communities, whether they're cottage stores that are going to serve as hubs. If you are a cottage business owner and you have a message or something in particular, I think about like barbershop as, a place like when you see old shows where like guys would gather. First I think of like the old time movies of guys being there, and then, then of course now women really have like a strong barbershop, and then, we've got just like the energy of places where people meet to gather and talk about things and kind of get the local news, and even like cafes and restaurants and spiritual metaphysical centers and churches. These types of communities are like going to be very important, okay? And you all, as the social bridge builders, are going to be very important part of this creation of these communities. And cottage businesses that have been having a hard time, many cottage businesses are going to fall. But the ones that have this community message have a very stronger chance of surviving, especially if you start to see yourself as a leader, basically, the person who has this cottage business as a leader in the community, to hold, community gatherings, to be a hub, to gather information, to share information, and also to get online. Something else very important to know is that cottage businesses that can extend into an online presence can have a stronger chance of surviving. And the cottage businesses of the future, from what I can see very clearly, are going to really have a very strong internet component and community component, local component, that will help to bring in income from multiple streams, not just the cottage business. Okay, so this type of mentality, just think of this as like a blueprint. You can apply this towards many other things in your life, even if you're not a cottage business holder, but that type of idea of being a space holder, a community creator, is going to be very, very critical for the world, and Geminis are going to take a leadership role. Okay, so that's all going on. But what happens in October is this breaking down, breaking up, clearing out, emotionally in many cases, of the previous roles, of the way you did the business, of the way you conducted your life. And that we'll have a lot of uncertainty because the complete picture of what's going to come next might not be clear until towards the end of November into December, okay? And then it will start to even clarify more as time goes on. So if you just remember that October, just like I told you about July, and I had many, many, many people contact me to tell me, like, yes, okay, you were exactly right with this. There's uncertainty. We're just going to be just hovering in like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And some of this is going to be wrapped up in elections, which is going to be, very, very monumental, and other pieces of what's going to go on, because obviously elections are going to dictate foreign policy and all kinds of things that are going on. And that month before Election Day in the United States, at least, is going to be rich with that heaviness, but it's not just because election time, it's coalescing because of these stars. The planetary transits are guiding us into this certain experience. Okay, so we've got 2 full moons this month. That's another layer. Okay, so basically the eclipses and the energy brewing about the eclipses, major crossroads, especially big changes for Geminis because it's your cycle. We've got the Mercury retrograde in water. We have Mars retrograde. Then we've got 2 full moons. October 1st and October 31st, we have 2 full moons. So that anytime there are 2 full moons in a sign or in a calendar month, the second one is a blue moon. Okay, so the saying, once in a blue moon. We've got that once in a blue moon, October 31st, and the days before and after it, which, by the way, election time is in that too. Energetically, this blue moon is going to string out. And there might be some surprises in store because Uranus, the planet of surprise, the planet that rules Aquarius, where we're moving into a deeper level of the age of Aquarius, the Jupiter and Saturn moving into Aquarius is bringing another line of the development of the age of Aquarius. And then later on, years from now, when Pluto gets there, that's really going to be, gelling it in a big way. But this energy of Aquarius, with Uranus being conjunct with the ruler of Aquarius, and Uranus being conjunct the moon, this full moon is going to be pretty intense. All right, so a lot of once in a lifetime things can happen for better, right? You can have like something that just gels, like, wow, I can't even believe this happened, in a wonderful way. But there are also going to be jolts, and there are going to be surprises. There could be reversals, and many things that seem like they're going a clear direction in October, by the time this moon comes and then the succession of changes that occur with the transits after that, there might be a reversal of the direction that people think things are going in. So it's going to be very confusing, and it's really going to be quite riveting. So let's see. The energy of relationship is coming up very strong because the personal planets, the ones closest to us, we've got a lot of activity in Libra and Scorpio. As the sun moves through Libra, it's going to kiss Gemini placements, so that's a nice little boost where the sun is going to light up some things for you. And at the same time, the Mercury in the Scorpio thing is like this depth, the depth to the relationships, the shared money, the, shared outcomes, the legal connections, the spiritual, deep, intimate, karmic connections. Those aspects of relationships are going to really come into the forefront. So you might find that you're in talks with friends or with people that you know as to this new role that you're going to be stepping into. And everybody has an openness because this is a game-changing time in history. October, November, December, the sequence of aspects is just going to really be very intense. But I do think a lot more openness is going to come because the energy of restriction has been a keynote of 2020. Because Capricorn, Saturn rules restriction, Saturn moving through its own sign of Capricorn, Jupiter being there, Pluto has been there, is still there. That, and of course Pallas Athena, the star goddess, has also been in Capricorn. All of this energy of restriction and discipline and the patriarchy and the old systems and, the way everything was done is being tested. And what it's our job to do, we've got two big jobs with this. One is to look for the parts of the system that work and look for the parts of the system where there's ancient wisdom, where people have figured something out, and that's why they do it the way they do it. And take those pieces as a grounding cord into the new, because with Aquarius energy, things are going to get really weird, okay? You've gotten a taste of it this year because Saturn has been teeter-tottering, and then Jupiter was also influencing close to Aquarius. And there have been some pretty bizarre experiences. I mean, we wake up one day and everybody's wearing masks outside, right? It's like, well, how did that happen? So weird things, and that was one for worse, but weird things for better can also be part of this. So things are going to get more weird. And it's part of our job to take the pieces of the old systems in our daily life, in our own way of doing things, in our belief systems. Our belief systems are part of our individual systems, and bring those as a grounding cord. Okay, I'm calling this period of time and what we're stepping into the rise of the grounded revolutionary, okay, or the rise of the stable revolutionary, because the storyline of Capricorn and Aquarius and teeter-tottering with those extremes very much represents, Aquarius is the rebel, the revolutionary, the completely, kamikaze, just like pushing into these surprising places because of a vision. But what you're going to do once you get through the immediate problem is not always super well established with the energy of Aquarius, okay? But because Saturn is going to be moving into Aquarius, and we've been teeter-tottering between Capricorn and Aquarius, it's bringing this time of years that Saturn's going to be there, where the grounded revolutionary, the one that has a strategy, the one that has a plan, the one that answers the questions, okay, what comes next after we overturn this, whatever it is that you're working on, whether it's the belief system within yourself or whether it's a local situation or a national situation or a global situation. The revolutionary doesn't really think too much about what's going to happen when you overturn whatever it is that you're trying to do. It just blazes forward, right? And then there's chaos. But the grounded revolutionary checks the strategy, gets a plan, gets the contingency plan, thinks about what you're going to do once you do this, and then has the reckless sometimes energy, but it won't be as reckless because it'll be grounded, you see? So it's like, it's just beautiful. So we're finding this within ourselves. So that's our second job, is to see what can help us to be stable. We find our grounding cord, the pieces that work, and then What can help us be stable as we go into these new worlds, all right, and new experiences? There are places where you're going to find you've been way too conservative and you need to be a little bit more wild and break free. And there are places where you've had too much freedom and not enough discipline, where you're going to have to apply discipline. And that's going to be a very personal journey. And that's a huge job of this year and beyond. Okay, so because this year of restriction has been like so extreme, it's hard to believe sometimes that we are actually going to get out of it, okay? But I really do believe we are going to get out of it. Now, because Saturn is moving through Aquarius, there are going to be, and other reasons, we are going to not just, okay, COVID's done, now, tomorrow everything is fine, right? Things have changed in our lives permanently. And like I've been talking about, this new normal, that is going to be in process. But at the same time, the Aquarian energies are going to open things up tremendously. Okay, so October is like the pinnacle of the energy of restriction and into the beginning of November. So the energy that we've had for the whole year is encapsulated and expanded in the month of October. So if you can just kind of imagine what that looks like. And then it starts to break. I'm using the word for this month, transition. Okay, we know what the word transition means by definition. I'm using it as a birth term. So if you've birthed a baby, or if you've birthed a project, or if you've birthed, in the birthing community, you know that there's a word called transition that talks about when the woman is at the point where the cervix is completely dilated and the baby can come out. And that lasts anywhere from a few seconds to like many hours for, different people. But that point where the woman is like, I can't do this. There's no way that this is going to happen. This isn't real. The baby's never coming out. That feeling of hopelessness, of impossibility, of uncertainty, of just denial of what's about to happen, that energy is going to be encapsulated in this month. So if you know that going into it, you'll know also that the birth is going to happen into November and December and January and beyond, okay? But you're at that transition point. We're at that transition point where we're going to feel in some ways like it's impossible. And if that comes up, just know you're going to crack through it. Okay, now on the topic of just like this, I'm calling it like a quivering sort of, like if you imagine like an egg is like quivering about to hatch and it's like trying to push out and trying to push out. That energy is going to be this month where this tension is building and trying to crack, and it's not yet cracking, and maybe some things are starting to crack and it's like awkward and tense. And there's going to be a lot of fear, okay? Fear is always wrapped up in change. Fear is always wrapped up when where there's an unknown. And also the energy of Libra. Libra relates to the kidneys, and if you've been following my work, you know that I've been talking about how livers and gallbladders around the world are having royal conniption fits, especially the second half of this year from the energies in Mars going retrograde. It's alerting people to the fact that their gallbladder and their liver physiologically may need some support, and also anger and resentment that has been stored up needs to be cleared out. Different body parts and different signs have a relationship in different planets. Okay, so Libra energy that is prominent this month relates to the kidneys. And there's a fear circuit that goes from your adrenals, which are back here, or in there. And then there's this, that's the fight, flight, or freeze. And then it energetically goes down to the kidneys. And then it goes down, the psoas muscle kind of starts here below the kidneys at the vertebrae and then goes in through the hips and then at the top of the leg bones here into the hips. And that's the psoas muscle. And the psoas has a ton of energy associated with fear. Then there's a piriformis muscle, which is one of the reasons why people get sciatica, is this piriformis muscle, which is a hip rotator. It's a tiny little muscle. And it gets really tense, but it's related to this fear circuit. And then the fear circuit goes down the legs, and then the knees have a big, welling up of fear energy, and then it goes out down through the feet. But what Spirit has been showing me is that there's this tension in the psoas muscle. And a psoas muscle, which is PSOAS, is a hip flexor. It like pulls your knees up towards your chunk of your body. So when you're sitting, your psoas muscles are tense. And most people don't do the type of motion that is the counter stretch to the the hip flexor motion, the hip extension. Okay, and as a result, a lot of tension is in this piriformis muscle, and the psoas muscle, and also the piriformis muscle, which is the hip rotator. The reason why this is important and relevant for this month is because the sphere channel that's going to be activated by all these layers of emotion and the energies in Libra are going to flood the sphere channel. And if your psoas and piriformis muscles are tight, it stops the flow of the energy, and it causes you to be more likely to be paralyzed with fear and not feel like you can move forward. These are muscles that help you move forward in your life. So if you can stretch and release those muscles and keep them stretched and released, you might find that fear is more manageable for you. Now, if you have brittle bones or have had a hip replacement or, knee replacement, anything that goes on that's, a special medical situation, you might not want to mess with these muscles on your own. I would definitely suggest you look into having somebody help you, a practitioner, or show you how you can safely do this. But for everybody else, look up how to stretch and release the psoas muscle. Look at how to stretch and release the piriformis muscle, piriformis. And you will probably hate me when you start stretching these muscles, because it will hurt like crazy because they're so tense. But as you start releasing them and you just do it regularly, I do believe if you're paying attention, especially, you'll notice that these fear channels, that you get stimulated in your adrenals and your kidneys get stimulated, and then the energy has a place to go and it just releases down through your feet. And if you could be barefoot, I guess being home is helpful for that. Being barefoot helps this energy to not get trapped in by the plastic and the rubber from shoes. Okay, so another really great way to clear fear is EFT, the emotional freedom technique. If you've been listening to me talk about this for a long time and you haven't looked it up, maybe this should be the time to do it, because it's going to really help you. It's free. You can just look up things for free. EFT for anxiety, EFT for fear, EFT for whatever you want. It's a scientifically proven procedure that helps you to clear limitations, clear your meridians, your rivers of energy through your body, and also has an effect, a measurable effect on your immune system. And it also has a measurable effect on all kinds of markers of stress in the body, the cortisol. They've done studies to see before and after of cortisol levels for people doing EFT, before they did the EFT and after. And cortisol levels, those are your stress hormones, come down. So this is a really good time to do that. So in summary, it's going to be a crazy powerful month. A lot for Geminis to look forward to, especially moving forward. My suggestion is that you pick a form of inner work. Yoga, the Presence Process by Michael Brown, EFT, modalities that help to clear PTSD like EMDR, NLP, anything that does inner work. The more you do that this month, the more you're going to be free to the possibilities that want to open for you in the months and years to come. If you'd like to have more information on what to expect this month, you can get a list of the salty and the sweet aspects. We do have more salty aspects this month to boot than the sweet ones, but we do have some nice sweet ones, including some beautiful, we've got 4 trines with Venus, with those outer planets that have been so mischievous. And we had 6 of these trines in September. So this is a nice carryover where some of the mischief that took place with the outer planets in Capricorn in the past can start to have nice news and nice results in the beauty, self-esteem, money, love, relationship sectors as Venus makes these kisses. So when you go to AnnieHelpsYou.com and sign up for my free email newsletter, not only do you get Shine, my 28-day virtual coaching program, for free, you also get a write-up of all the salty dates, all the sweet dates, what you can expect from them, and a written version of the general transits of the month delivered into your inbox 1 month early. And if you want to have written horoscopes by me that are much more simplified than what we cover and often talk about some things that I don't necessarily get into in the horoscopes, you can go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. All the links that I'm giving you, the websites, are in the notes underneath the video. So if you click on more or the arrow button, it will reveal all of these links. You can look at my Mars retrograde blog and video to understand how to use these energies more. You can look at my Mercury retrograde information. Also, let's see, on cozybysweetstarlight.com, there are beautiful lifestyle blogs and astrology kiss blogs, herbal teas for each sign, yoga for the different signs, how to maximize the sun moving through different signs. If you want to take free classes, including one called Unleash Your Money Magnet that used to be a paid course that I have, you can go to my school, Luminous Life Multiversity, at lumelife.com, L-U-M-E life.com. As you'll notice, most of my resources that I create for you are free. And so make sure you take advantage of them because I work hard to put them out there for you. I have just a few paid things, and you can see some of my paid courses at lumelife.com too, including Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery course. If you think I put a lot of heart and soul into the free offerings, you should see what I do in that course. It is crazy comprehensive. So whether you just want to learn for the love of astrology to help yourself and your family, or you want to do it professionally, I will equip you to do all of that in that course, which you can see at lumelife.com. My new book, Planetology, is getting closer to being out. How to align with the natural rhythms of the universe, so you can pre-order it. And I saw that Amazon has quite a nice discount on it right now. So you'll probably pay less for it if you pre-order it. So you can see that at Amazon. You can also order through any major bookseller, and it's everywhere online. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.